Alright, so that's a straw poll, and now let me start actually getting into what I thought of this game. And again, sorry, I know it's messy, but we'll get through this. Alright, so was that spoiler-free? Yeah, everyone was really quiet, and I don't know if it's because people hadn't played this game, or if just you guys were just being very courteous to me. Either way, I appreciate it. We went through this completely blind. Alright, so the music in this game. There's a lot of tracks in this game I like, but there's also a lot of tracks that I feel are mediocre at best. Some of these tracks really fit the game, more so in the cutscenes and things like that than anything else. But one thing I always try to consider is, are the games like or is the music something that I could listen to outside of playing the game? And I feel like a lot of these tracks really need to be like attached to the game. To really have the depth that they have. But overall, when they did play in some of the beautiful areas of the game and stuff like that, oh, sorry. It's really quiet to me, so I'll turn it down a bit. Anyway, when it comes to the music itself, it was a pleasant experience, and I think it added to the game. And I think that's something that you always have to take into perspective is, does it make the game better? And I feel it did, so I'm going to go ahead and give the music a 7. I wish there was quite a few more tracks that I enjoyed in it, but there are some that I'll take with me. Graphics rating for the area. Okay, so, era. Sorry. I feel like this was the strong suit for this game. This was a really beautiful game, and some of the areas were really unique early on. The later half of the game, kind of not so much. It almost feels like, again, like I said before, they were just trying to artificially lengthen the game. And I feel like it suffered because of it. I don't think it was needed. I feel like even if you bought this game for $50 and the game only ended up being like 4 or 5 hours long, I think you would have been disappointed. But I feel at the same time that it would have been a better game for it. But I like the art design. I like the characters. I feel for a Wii game, it looked really good. It's probably one of my favorite aspects. Some of the colorful areas in the game and stuff like that, in this like decrepit world and everything else were, you know, they sat with me, and so did the characters. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give that an 8. Alright, so the story rating. Let's be honest, guys, there wasn't too much of a story. Basically, the world's ending. You have no idea or reason as to why it happened. You're one of the few, if the only human survivor at the time. You find a girl. You basically go on a journey to chase this girl. The whole getting to the Red Tower and everything like that is your goal. And I know we're on the Red Tower at the end of the game. At least that's what I took it as. But like your reasoning for needing to go there and everything else and any type of ambitions for the character other than being with other people, which is enough for like you're this young boy that doesn't want to be alone. I mean, it's enough to make it interesting, and it's really what intrigued me. But the characters that you meet, you don't really get too much depth with them, and I feel like the characters don't really get to grow on you as much as they could. It almost feels like if you spent more time with them and things like that, it might. And some of the things you do with some of the characters makes it even more so annoying. Like Crow, having to do all those mini games and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden now you're friends, and then all of a sudden he's, you know, dead at the end of the game. You've got the robot on there, that's just like, you're supposed to feel bad for it and things like that, but you don't have it for very long. And even the girl at the end, Ren, you know, you're chasing after her the whole game, and you see what's happening to her and potentially what could happen to her if you don't save her, but you're just not... I don't feel that depth. The characters show it and they express it, but it didn't go to me. I didn't absorb that. I did not feel for the characters as much as maybe I could have, but I could see it and conveyed in the characters, and I think that was well done. I think probably one of the most interesting characters was Sai, honestly. She's with you longer, obviously. You learn more about her story, and still, like, the first cutscene in the game, like, when you see her, to, like, see her as a ghost, and then her body on the bed, and just, like, a whole bunch of drugs and syringes and stuff like that on a table that it just flashes by really quickly. Like, I felt like her turmoil and stuff like that was conveyed before I even knew anything about it, and I found her to be really interesting. even though they decide to throw the whole, oh, she knows absolutely everything that's going on type of thing right at the end. Overall, I like I said, I just feel like this story was something that doesn't fit a 10, 11 hour game. And I really would have liked to see it almost be like an anime or something. Or like, you know, a short story or something like that. I feel like it would have done so well, something like that. Especially with the art design and just the characters in general and things like that. They could have built a lot more off of that rather than trying to build like this woodworks of mechanics and stuff like that in the battle system and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and give the story a 6. I didn't hate it. I kind of wanted more out of the ending. I couldn't even tell you what I wanted, to be completely honest. I can't think of what would make it better. But overall, it wasn't overly satisfying to me. But I wanted to see it. It definitely kept me wanting to play more and experiencing it. It had me there. So even during like the annoying parts of the game, I still wanted to see more. And you got to give it credit for that. Alright, so the mechanics. At the start of the game, when I just have the flashlight and I'm looking around, I'm looking at all these areas and searching things and stuff like that, I knew that that's what the entire game was going to be like, and I had no problem with that. I feel like experiencing the areas and stuff like that at the start was great. The combat was just something that was added to maybe give it more of an RPG element in general, to get really just to make it a game, to make it more than just walking around and experiencing things. It was just kind of there. It wasn't necessary. Enemies weren't difficult. What made anything difficult was the clunky movement that you had to do, which is both, attributed to the fact that you're using the Wiimote and the nunchuck, and the fact that your character moves incredibly slow while holding the flashlight and attacking. Although there's projectile items and items you can charge and things like that, what it really comes down to is press A a couple times, enemy is dazed for a bit, go attack enemy again. That's every enemy, every boss. You know, some slight differences here and there. They did play with the audio on the Wiimote to try to kind of let you know when enemies are going to attack and everything else, but since you're turning so slowly and doing everything so slowly, you're never quite sure where the sound's coming from. You can kind of hear it's coming from the right, but is it straight in front of me or is it to the right? So you turn a tiny bit to the right, but here it was nearly behind you at that point type of thing, and you can't really react to it anyway. So although it was like an interesting idea, mechanically it's just not something you could do very well with how they had this set up. And that's why I feel like the battle system and stuff like that was kind of just like thrown in there. Almost like they came up with the story of this game at first, and they decided to make a game out of it rather than normally games that we get today. They already have like, yeah, they change mechanics and things like that, and yeah, the story is always a big part of how the game develops, but I think there's always like a starting point with like a combat system or something like that, or what people are going to do in their games, and that evolves around everything else, whereas this just felt like it was thrown in. The longer areas of the game, the end, you basically go through 2 areas. I had gone through maybe like 5, 6, 7 areas up until that point, and they were, decent size and took a decent amount of time. And then 2 endgame areas took nearly 4 hours, and you were basically just walking down straight paths the entire time with just enemies that were put in your way to be a hindrance. And it took away from the game for me. The mini games that were added for no reason, the pointless fetch quests that you have to do once, twice, 3, 4 times to get the same outcome in the end, it does not add to the depth of the characters of the story in any way, and because of that, I really think it failed. And I'm going to go ahead and give the mechanics a 5. The game was definitely playable. I might have had some more technical trouble than some people might have had, and I do find some of the aspects interesting, but I really feel that it was done so poorly that it just really killed it for me. So the grinding rating. I don't really think that you really had to fight anything in this game. I feel like you would have gained enough levels if you could progress through the game without fighting anything other than like bosses and stuff like that, then you would have been the necessary level you had to be, because levels are basically pointless. You get some money out of it, but that's RNG. You don't know if you're going to get items that drop and give you money. The game kind of puts weapons and stuff like that in your path. Oh, speaking of mechanics, the whole weapon destruction thing was incredibly dumb. Why? Why was that a thing? I would have much rather switched between the weapons based on what they did, rather than be like, oh, well, I used this for a battle, now it's broken, now I gotta use whatever I have in my inventory. What was the point? I seriously bought something like 15 golf clubs in that game, and I went through all of them. But anyway, back to the grinding. I do not think grinding was necessary at all, which is rare. But again, since the combat system and stuff like that feels like it was just kind of thrown in there a little bit, it makes sense. And then the game decides, hey, let's just throw a shit ton of fights that you have to do and you can't move. If they were story related, I really wouldn't have minded that. I would have liked these interesting mini bosses or something like that to fight going up the tower. But literally it was like, they could have let me go up the tower and get the story out of that, but instead they're like, let's put this robot in there that we know you can't get around, and you have to kill it to go up there. And we're gonna have 2 on every 4 sets of steps. Oh, and right before that you had to go through like 15 pathways with that, and all this other type of stuff. So although I'm going to say that you really did not have to do any type of grinding, the encounters that were forced on you were just dumb. Not interesting, not fun, nothing about them were good. So although this would have been my first 10, I think, for the grinding rating, I'm going to give it a 9. And remember, the higher the number, the better for this rating as well. So this brings me to the overall. I did enjoy aspects of this game. Like I said, if this was an anime, I think I would have enjoyed it 10 times more. But it was an experience, and I'm happy that I played it. And watching those trailers and stuff like that got me like excited for the game, even though I had played it before, which is interesting to know that I already know the ending of the game. I already know everything about it, but those trailers still did a good job at making me want to play this game. And that's a little awkward. Normally you don't have that type of experience, you know, it's the opposite way around. You watch the trailers, you get excited for the game, and then you're disappointed, and then you don't think anything of those trailers again and things like that. But with this, they definitely had a lot of heart put into this game, and they definitely had an idea, but it just was not executed properly enough. It just wasn't. Not for a game. I'm going to go ahead and give this game a 6 out of 10. I'd have a hard time recommending it to people, and you know, telling people to be excited about it and stuff like that, but some of the earlier areas in the game and the eerie feel and stuff like that, it had this like atmosphere to it that was just completely destroyed as you progressed through the game. But it was still there at one point or another. Alright, so let's see how you guys rated this, and then we'll get ready for the raffle. Alright, we got 9 votes. 18, 25, 32, 42, 50. Alright, looks like 5.5 going on 6 for you guys. So you guys are in agreement with me. You are in time for the raffle. Will I replay this game? No, but I'm actually interested in checking out the manga, so... Alright, we beat this game on the 27th of September. Took us 10 hours, 55 minutes, and 13 seconds. Alright, guys. Yep. Let me just get the raffle set up, and we'll be on our way. Go ahead and start taking a look at the list to think of some games that you might want to pick. And we'll get this ready to go. Alright, guys. It is raffle time, my friends. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for sticking around. And now, for you guys get to hopefully win and pick the next game that I play. If you're new here, my goal is to go through every JRPG. At the end of every game that I beat, I have a raffle. You win the raffle, you get to pick the next game that I play. It's as simple as that. So again, if you are here and you normally lurk and stuff like that, I would never really call out lurkers. But if you'd like to see a game played that you've never seen someone play before, you just really love and you want to share with somebody, I highly recommend just typing in the word raffle. You'll be entered. Everyone has an equal chance of winning, unless your name's Nakurti. So give it a shot. have some fun. Join us. Let's see what other songs I can find here while we wait. I like this one. Sigma Star Saga. It's an action RPG where the battles are a 2D shooter. I don't know. I don't know if it's on my list either. You can go ahead and take a look at the list, and if you don't see it on there... Tannen, are you actually gonna enter, or are you just gonna set Baffle? Although, it's funny, because last time I was like, hey, Tannen, are you gonna enter? And again, there's no limit to the amount of times that you can win as well, everybody. And so, don't feel bad. If you won last time, you can win multiple times in a row. Everyone can enter. We've got so many games to go through that a majority of us... Alright, if you're not going to enter this time, that's fine. I'm not going to force you. That's fine. What was the name of that game, by the way? Okay, you looked and you didn't see it? What I'll do is I'll put it in the suggested games to research. And I'll do some research on it. What was the name of that game again? Sigma Star Saga. I'll give it a look. It might be in there under a different name. There's a whole bunch of different things. But if you do have... Yes, thank you, Nakurti. If you do have any list suggestions and things like that, you can join the Discord and discuss it. We can talk about it. I need to, at some point in time, go through all these games that have been suggested and really talk to everybody about adding these to the list and stuff like that and getting that done. We also need to look into cuts and stuff like that if we can. Because cutting the list down would definitely help some too. Oh, jeez. I find it funny that both of the games you picked, Tannen, have crashed on me too. I wouldn't say that this one's quite as controversial as Baten Kaitos, though. Raffle Puff! No, the Mario Rabbids game isn't on my list. I don't really consider that an RPG, though, just because it's turn-based. It's more of like a puzzle-type game over anything else. I don't know who suggested what, to be completely honest. But I'll give you guys a another couple minutes. Which begs the question, though, was Fragile Dreams a JRPG? I'd say it came close. Persona 4 is on the list. It should be over Hunter. All the Persona games are on the list. They just might be listed as something else. Again, I looked through dozens and dozens and dozens of lists of games. I love how this entire OST is basically taken off YouTube. All the videos are off. Yeah, they're under Shin Megami, probably. I'm not opening up that door. I have played Persona 4 before. I played Golden on the Vita. Alright, guys. I think I've made you wait, made you wait long enough. Thank you so much for stopping by and sticking around, and I wish you all good luck. Alright, everybody. 3, 2, 1. Everyone always thinks it's rigged. Rufia! White Mage Rufia, congratulations! If you're not streaming yourself right now, you won! Congrats! I don't know if you have a game ready or not, but just in case, here is the list. and take your time. There's plenty of stuff on there, so pick whatever you want. In the meantime, I can, is there anything else I can do on this? No, I think I'm done with everything. I can talk about the next game, though. The next game is Eternal Sonata. Oh, you quit Chrono Cross? I'll be playing the PS3 version. Some people have said that it's the more difficult version. I don't know what that means or why that is, but we'll figure it out, I guess. You really want Persona 5? Well, I have Persona 5, so you can pick it. I do own it. I think that it's been a long time running now that I could probably stream the game without anybody complaining about the whole content thing. So I think we should be okay there. That's entirely up to you, if that's what you want. Like I said, take your time, think of what you want to see, and we'll go from there. Persona 5 it is? Alright. Well, we got game number 25. Is that what you were gonna pick, BGG? BGG and his Raffle Mafia. Finally a good game? I think we've had some good games. First time played? Yes, it is my first time played. I have had this game for a bit now, so I have been holding off playing it because I knew I was going to have to play it through for this challenge at some point or another. So I've been looking forward to it. This is good. Both Eternal Sonata was a game that I definitely wanted to replay and have wanted to replay for a long time. And I've been interested in Persona 5. People have said nothing but good things about it, so I'm psyched. We've got some good games. I'll be long games, but some good games. I think we're being pretty fortunate with the good games at this point. It might spoil me, you're right. Alright guys, I think that's going to end it for me then today. So what we're going to do is we're going to find somebody to host, and if we can, I'd really like to raid somebody. Because it's always fun, and it gets the chat and whatever room we're in really hyped and excited. So let's see if we can find somebody that we can raid here. And we'll think of a, you guys can help me think of a raid message in the meantime. Buy rigged, by the way. An or ban?